Oi.
Ja, oi.
Hello and welcome to Aftermath Mirror Fightings. Look back on Saturday night's fight. Indeed, just over an hour ago, Anthony Joshua stopped Kubrat Pulev in the 9th round to defend his three heavyweight world titles in quite stunning fashion, to be honest. Please do, while you're here, give the video a thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the channel. And let's get into it. So, I mean, that's the headline. And so much relief now, really, that Anthony Joshua has won, of course, defended his belts, and can now go on to hopefully face Tyson Fury in the new year. How did he do it? Well, it was a cagey opening couple of rounds, that's for sure. Joshua focusing on the jab to the head, jab to the body. Pulev not particularly offering too much in the early stages, but the fight came to life, really, in the third round. Joshua, he landed an uppercut, a shot which he really looked for all night long. Vicious right uppercut, which didn't drop Pulev. It sort of staggered him, and he turned his back rather bizarrely on Joshua. The referee sort of stepped in, presumably believing that the ropes had kept him up, administered the count. And even at that stage, it looked like it was going to be a pretty short night for the Bulgarian. He was fine to continue, but then he took another right hand, which dropped him. And, there was still a good 30 seconds, I think, at least left in that third round. But to be fair to him, as he showed throughout the fight, he carried on. He managed to hear the bell, get to the end of the round, but, it looked like Joshua was going to stop Pulev earlier than Klitschko did all these years ago. He did it in the 5th round. Joshua looked primed to strike in the 4th, finish it off, and that would be all she wrote. But as I said, to Pulev's credit, he did carry on. And, at no point in the fight was he ever on top. But he certainly showed a good chin. And then from the 4th round onwards, to be honest, he did nullify a lot of what Joshua was trying to do. Joshua fought a lot of the time behind the jab. It was pretty controlled, pretty effective. But at no point did he really unload. There was a lot of talk before the fight about which Joshua we would see. Would we see the controlled Joshua who won the rematch with Andy Ruiz Jr. just over 12 months ago? Or would he be a bit more gung-ho, the old Joshua, a bit looser? And we saw both. At times, he often reverted back to his jab, just kept it simple, kept it long. And Pulev really struggled to get inside it and to work at all. He swung with his left hook an awful lot, which had very little effect. He landed a couple, but a lot of them just whistled by, and Joshua could see them coming from quite some distance away. But as I said, from the 4th round, Pulev did land the odd right hand. He certainly reminded Joshua that he was still in a fight and that he wasn't going anywhere. And actually, as the fight wore on, we got to the halfway stage, which I said beforehand, I would be surprised and possibly disappointed if we got there, but we did. And into 7, into 8, Pulev started to have his better rounds. As I said, that right hand, every now and again, just catching Joshua, just making sure he stayed alert. Joshua at no point looked, in trouble. But I think since the Ruiz fight, the first Ruiz fight 18 months ago, it's very hard to watch Joshua, even going back to the Klitschko fight when he was dropped in that one. It's so hard to watch Joshua sometimes with complete confidence. It always feels like he's maybe not an accident waiting to happen necessarily, but he's definitely there to be beaten. And while I didn't think Pulev ever would, just with the huge occasion and the huge potential occasion to come, there's always that worry that one shot just clips him in the wrong place, and that's the start of something bad. But we got into the 9th round, and definitely starting to consider strongly that this would have to go to a decision. Of course, Joshua would have won it comfortably, unless something dramatic had happened in 9, 10, 11, 12. But as it was, that uppercut, which he's been looking for ever since that 3rd round, never really landed it with enough. He was always up close, and Pulev was always able to sort of absorb it, but not in the 9th. Uppercut, and down Pulev went. And this time it looked like really would be over. But again, he beat the count. He was okay to continue. And actually, there was very little time left, 20 seconds or so, I think, left of the 9th round. And again, I thought, okay, it's fine. He'll hold. He'll see it through. But Joshua landed a peach of another right hand. And this time, Pulev, the way he went down, you knew that there was going to be no recovery this time. And the referee did indeed wave it off. So it was job done. A huge sigh of relief from the 1,000 fans in attendance. Anthony Joshua, I'm sure, Eddie Hearn definitely, and millions of fans around the world. And so, of course, attention very quickly turned to what's next. And it was quite a bizarre interview, actually, that Joshua gave, and actually very disappointing in a way, because he was asked about the fight, but right away he sort of shut down any interview. He said, I don't really want to give an interview. I just want the fans to enjoy it and go off and have a good Christmas. I thought, hang on, what are you on about? And then it was kind of, it went round the houses and circled around the name Tyson Fury. Nobody really wanted to say it. Eventually it was put to Anthony Joshua, and he said, I've been in this sport professional since 2013. I've fought mandatories. I've done this. I've done that. I just want the belts. And if Tyson Fury's next, then Tyson Fury's next, which was as close as we got to a call out to I want this fight. Let's bring it on. Why are you not here? It was just nothing. I'm not for 1 minute saying that he was avoiding the fight or ducking the fight or that he will try and avoid Tyson Fury, but it felt like he was so reluctant to allow Tyson Fury any part of the evening. It was, this is about me. This is my victory. I'm here. I fought this year, to be fair. I mean, Tyson Fury did fight at the start of the year, but hasn't fought under pandemic conditions. So perhaps Joshua just didn't want to share any of his glory with Fury. He hasn't made any about Tyson Fury, although he's been asked about an awful lot. And perhaps this time he just still didn't want to share any of the glory. That, of course, didn't go down particularly well with Tyson Fury, who accused Joshua right away of bottling it. He said, I want the fight next, and I will knock Joshua out within 3 rounds. Certainly the promoters were more forthcoming with their plans. Eddie Hearn says Monday morning. Don't know why I can't do it today on Sunday, but Monday morning he will get on that fight. And hopefully it can be made. Bob Arum, Tyson Fury's promoter, as I said, the same thing. They will get to work that next week. Of course, Joshua and Fury have already agreed in principle to split the purse 50-50, which could be a nice £100 million each. That was always one of the biggest, if not the biggest, hurdles before they actually fought. There are several details, of course, to be ironed out. Will it be for all 4 belts? Will Alexander Usyk either be ordered or persuaded to step aside and allow the biggest fight, at least since Mayweather-Pacquiao in 2015, to take place for every heavyweight belt, to crown the first undisputed heavyweight world champion since Lennox Lewis in 2000? Or will the WBO say, no, Usyk has waited long enough, he will fight most likely Joe Joyce, unless Joshua fights him, but he won't. Joshua will get the title. Or indeed, and then Usyk's not willing to give it up. I don't really care. I think most fans don't really care how many belts are on the line. But of course, it would be nice. It would be a night. It would sort of square the circle, if you like, to have all 4 titles on the line, at least for a first instalment. Hopefully, there are over 2, maybe even 3 fights between the rivals. So that's the first thing. But largely, it's certainly not a major stumbling block. Then they need to decide where and when to do it. It's difficult to see it taking place in the UK. It would have to be a full Wembley. And there are still doubts over whether that will be the case for the Euros next summer. And therefore, how can anyone say with any certainty that in April or May there will be a full house at Wembley? It just won't happen. And even then, Fury and Joshua, we've seen it would have to take up to a 50% pay cut. And I can't imagine either of them will be rushing to do that. So unless the fight's pushed back to July, August, which I think is unlikely, we are probably looking at the Middle East, maybe China, if they come in for it. But essentially, I imagine the fight will be put out to tender, if you like, and it will be a case of who wants it and who has got the most money, and that's where the 200 million comes from, potentially, including a huge site fee. as similar to the one paid by Saudi Arabia for the Ruiz rematch. So Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, all of them, really, I imagine will be in the running. I guess you can't rule out United States, but unlikely unless they do it in the Legion Stadium. That'd be huge. But again, I think the States are in a bigger mess than we are right now. So I would imagine that's unlikely. And in terms of a time frame, April to June has been bandied around. April feels early. You know, by the time a deal is done, will it be this year, maybe into next year, you need a big build-up. You know, we need a tour, we need press conferences, this is the real deal. So it needs to be given the time to marinate a little bit more. So perhaps May or perhaps June for the first instalment. And and I imagine it will be a 2-fight deal. And whichever belts are left at the end of the first one go on, be online again. Perhaps not if it's an early stoppage for either man, but I would imagine that's unlikely. And what a year 2021 can be. It seems like we are close. We are close. And until it's done, and maybe even until they are both in the same ring together, we can't be sure. But it definitely feels tonight, for the first time, that we will see Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua clash in the ring next year. There was, of course, an undercard in London last night. It wasn't in any way notable. You could probably have guessed the results beforehand. Lawrence Okolie stopped his standing opponent in the second round. I mean, of course, it was a stand-in. It was a late replacement. It was a week's notice, so we have to take that into consideration. But any suggestion that was ever going to be we were going to try and make that for a world title, an absolute farce. Easy night's work for Okolie, who now should go on to fight Krzysztof Glowacki in the new year. Fury, unsurprisingly, outpointed Mariusz Wach over 10 rounds. Fury did, to be fair, suffer a bad cut over his left eye early in the fight and did well to deal with that, but was never in trouble, looked okay. But, you know, the idea that Mariusz Wach is a particularly good marker for heavyweights these days is a bit laughable for me. Let's see what Fury does next. But, you know, he needs to beat someone top tier. Does he fight, someone like Derek Chisora? Maybe next. I'm not sure I'd back him to win that fight, but he needs to step up. Again, maybe the biggest controversy of the night, Florian Marku held to a draw by Jamie Stewart. Controversial in that I think everybody but the referee felt Florian Marku won that fight. He was very, very angry, of course. But let's be honest, again, thrown in at short notice because he signed a deal with Matchroom. These things happen, and it's not going to just go forward. And he'll be back out early in the new year. And what else happened? That's a good question. Nothing of note, I have to say. To be honest, it was a very middling undercard, which will be quickly forgotten because, as I said, Anthony Joshua, a 9th round stoppage of Kubrat Pulev, and now, surely, the biggest Christmas present boxing fans could have, and maybe we'll even have it by Christmas. Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury, perhaps for all the marbles in 2021. So that's all from this quick recap. I'll be back in 9 hours, actually, with George Groves and Declan Taylor for a full in-depth look back at Anthony Joshua's win, and a huge preview, of course, for a fight with Tyson Fury, and, of course, for a fight in the near future. Canelo against Callum Smith in Texas next weekend. Please do join us then. We will be live at 10 a.m. Sunday morning, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And of course, you can then listen to us on the podcast afterwards. But for now, thanks for tuning in.